This is the Daily Divide.
Yeah, big win for the Republicans this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very big.
It's a landslide. I mean, it's not Reagan esque, but it is a big thing. It is a big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got nothing really to say on it. That other American commentators, commentators haven't really covered. It's a huge landslide. That Kamala Harris didn't appeal to the voters that she needed to appeal to, as well as the Democratic Party haven't appealed to in the past decade since 2016. A lot of people just sat at home and didn't vote, and we saw that in the tally. 10 million votes difference compared to Biden. 81 million people voted for Biden last term, and only 74 million people voted for Kamala Harris. That's a difference of 10 million votes. While Trump's vote tallies stayed the same. He gained about 400,000 votes compared to the last tally, but it's not by much.
And they won the popular vote as well, which was surprising.
He won the popular vote because the Democratic base didn't turn out. I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Which is surprising but good, I guess. You know, the whole electoral college system doesn't really work as well as it should. You know, I think the popular vote, winning the popular vote, just really gives him, you know,
it reinforces their mandate.
It just says to him that he's got the, you know, he had the mandate from the electoral college, obviously, with the electoral votes, but winning that popular vote is just, it cements the fact that he's got the mandate to do what he says he's going to do.
And I think that's the sentiment you get from many people. Compared to 2016, obviously you weren't, and I probably weren't, and I wasn't really following politics in 2016. We came in way after that. We were barely in the, I was going to say something really rude, but we weren't really following it, but he didn't win the popular vote. But the sentiment is very different compared to 2016 because the popular vote is won. There was calls, Russian interference, which is substantiated to some factor, undebatable whether it was effective. This is hugely different. I think this is the onus is fully on the Democratic Party, rather than the Democratic Party in 2016 having the ability to blame other people, whether or not it's merited or not doesn't really matter. Now, all the blame is on them. Obviously, they're not going to blame other people. That's what they do. They blame others rather than themselves. That's them. But it's fully on their disconnect. I mean, I don't know if you saw the press release from Bernie Sanders, but it hits a nail on the head. The disconnect with their base and the working class. And I don't know if I've spoken with you with this in private, but the disconnect with the base from the DNC with their base has been apparent since Clinton, or since FDR left, basically, but definitely since the 90s, where they have moved into this educated, holier-than-thou, college-educated, policy wonks, where they look into the nitty-gritty numbers when people in general don't have the time to do that. They're just working to get their pay, and when they say, oh, yes, we improved this thing by 1% and 2%, it doesn't mean much. But when you get an alternate candidate like Donald Trump or any other candidates for that matter, going, this is a problem, I can do this, and not making any specific changes, but making a generalization, this is the enemy, it's way more appealing. So, yeah, I could keep going on this, but
I don't have too much else to say on it. I thought it was just interesting to bring up as first. It's been a big thing lately, so first thing I should really bring up. Second thing is the Treaty Principles Bill is going through Parliament this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is. They've moved it a week ahead, or a week back. They moved it a week ahead. For some reason, I thought they moved it a week back, but they moved it a fortnight ahead, or they moved it a week ahead.
Yeah. Very interesting, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to know? Look, on the fact that they've moved it forward, I just want to really speak quickly on that. I don't know whether or not they did it on purpose, but it's not a good look, is it? Whether or not it's parliamentary procedure, I don't really think that matters. The fact that the reading of the bill, whether or not it's again, whether or not it's parliamentary procedure, the fact that it's been moved ahead a week to where Luxon isn't going to be even in the country, and they moved it ahead of the Hikoi, it does present the perception. It presents Luxon and the coalition as cowards. I'm not saying that they are. I'm not saying that it was on purpose. But when I saw Brown Simmons, I wreck his name. I keep forgetting his name. Simeon Brown. I keep on calling him Simmons for some reason because he's so forgetful and boring. But the guy who looks like a 12-year-old in a 38-year-old body.
You're not talking about Chris Hipkins, are you? Because he does.
No, but he looked. So he was on a breakfast interview with Daniel Faitoa and what's his face, McNulty. He looked so uncomfortable when he was pressed on it. He looked like he didn't want to answer the issue, and that's when I saw that interview. That's when I thought, oh, this isn't good. Whether or not they did it on purpose, whether or not they did it as a move as a big middle finger, or whether or not it was just general parliamentary procedure, I think the look of it makes them out to be cowards. And
well, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a general conversation about how I think the Labour Party should jump on it in terms of building their campaign for the next election, but I don't know. That's just my perception about things.
Yeah, I don't know how you can sort of say it's been cowardly. I think it's a very the bill in itself, it sort of needs to happen. I think if people actually look at what the bill is trying to accomplish and stop with all the rhetoric and fear mongering about it, and actually have a deep dive, and actually, if people actually have a good look at what it's trying to achieve and think about what it's trying to achieve, I think it's actually good for the country. Regardless of whether they moved it forward or whatever. I don't think it's cowardly because it's something that needs to be talked about. And I think it's a very important thing to talk about. So I think it needs to be done sooner rather than later. And regardless of whether it was going to happen, when it was going to happen, or they've moved it forward now, if they hadn't moved it forward, another bill would have been debated anyway. So
look, I'll have my opinions on the treaty principles bill. I don't know if we'll have a discussion on it. I don't really think I'm equipped, or you're either equipped to discuss constitutional and treaty obligations, because we're not we haven't studied that field in years, so we're not really equipped and expert, and neither is David Seymour for that matter. But the reason why I wanted to touch on that specific flashpoint is that it is such a I picture myself in the head of Winston Peters. I picture myself in the head of Luxon, the term before, when he was opposition minister, and how they would act if Labour did something, or the opposite, or the Labour coalition government did something similar, where it was just parliamentary procedure, but it didn't look good. And they would jump on it almost instantly. They didn't care about it. They care about the how it looks to the public, and they'll jump on it and they'll start sending ads out. And I think for me, I think that this is a huge opportunity for the Labour Party and the Greens, but the Greens always do it because they're just like the ACT Party in New Zealand First. They're more of a fringe organisation that do this sort of stuff. I mean the Labour Party. This is an opportunity for the Labour Party to jump in the throats of National and call them cowardly, beholden to a minority share in the coalition. Something like this is a huge opportunity to call Luxon a bit of to be spineless. Whether or not that's true, this is a huge flashpoint that if the ball was in the other court, they would take it and run with it for 10 months. So I shouldn't think the Labour government should absolutely do that. They should be sending flyers out and going.
The thing is,
McNulty call. Sorry, go ahead.
The thing is that they can't really say that too much. I guess they can't. They should do that if it gets past its first reading, and then if it gets past its first reading, then maybe that they could send stuff out. Then it would be. But I'm not going to say, like, I hope it gets past first reading. I think it's a great thing.
Okay.
And just onto that point, I think it's got nothing to do with the obligations of the Crown to the treaty with what this is trying to accomplish. All this is trying to say is, look, we're all equal in the eyes of the law, regardless of where you come from, regardless of who your ancestors are. They're not trying to destroy the treaty. They're not trying to overturn or do anything with the settlements. It will all stay the same. All it's doing is targeting the principles of what it is actually says. Do you understand what I mean? So I don't think it's a bad thing. People just get this big misconception. I guess maybe because it's the ACT Party, and people think the ACT Party are bad people. Absolutely brilliant people, in my view. They do a lot of good stuff for the country. And if people actually took the time to think about it, I think it would actually be a good thing for.
I think I'll quote Chris Luxon when it comes to the Treaty Principles Bill. It's a gross simplification of an important document, founding document, that the foundational document of this country, and isn't. And this is not verbatim, but doesn't really get the point of the of what the treaty actually is. That's not verbatim. That's effectively what he said. Now they don't. Now Luxon says, and this is, I would say, the only good thing about this, but isn't the treaty principle bill. The whole point isn't for it to get voted into government. Isn't get voted into referendum or anything. It's to strike a heart into New Zealand and to start a conversation, which is just debate speak for we want to divide the country so we can stay in government and keep our share of the pie. And I think that so it's an interesting fact that you think that there is a possibility that it would go even go past first read. Do you think it will?
I don't think it will. I wish it would, but I don't think it will. And I think you're wrong. I think
because if it would, then Christopher Luxon's leadership would be in question, even if it did, because he would be outed.
No, I don't think it will. But I think you're wrong. It's not to divide. That's the whole misconception. It's not that's not the point. It is to start a conversation. It's not to divide. It's actually
so when he misquotes what Te Treaty, it's against. Again, I'm not an expert on this. Is against, and again, I only knew this was a thing this year. That the Māori version of the treaty is not. Is about the Māori people did not cede partnership, and he misquotes as saying that the Māori did cede partnership, and he works from that logic. I would say that's a bit dishonest, and the fact that he's not willing to work honestly in creating a principles bill, and it's not honest. I'm
pretty sure
to create a conversation about
I'm pretty,
Māori in New Zealand, and about
yeah.
co-governance.
But
I
the
think
thing
that's pretty
is,
dishonest.
but I think it's not. I think they probably actually did want partnership. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken what they got when people got here. That they got something for something else.
And what was that?
That's well, I'm not going to quote specifically because I don't know, but I'm sure that they probably did. But the thing
Probably didn't.
is like, it's not to divide people. It's to actually unite people and actually make sure that people are treated equally
Right.
under the
But
law.
when you misunderstand the treaty and you misunderstand its purpose, and you say that it's a treaty between races, between the crown and a race, I think then you're getting into dishonest territory about what it actually is. And when you say that it's not about the Māori ceded sovereignty, I think that's when you start into dishonest territory. If you want to be an honest debate, I think everyone's wanting an honest debate, and I think that's what kind of happened beforehand. Obviously, in terms of the public, it wasn't really happening, but I don't think this country is ready for a debate anyway, because this country isn't properly educated. Very few people knew there were two different types of treaty. It's only recent history that most people probably knew that. And I think you're seeing the results of that with multiple councils. If actually no, all, in fact, all bar one or two,
Okay.
keeping Māori. What's the word? I'm blanking here. The opposite. That council, Māori wards. I think you're seeing that slight transformation now. So I don't think people are against. So I think it's very disingenuous. I keep using the word, but it's very disingenuous with David Seymour, people like David Seymour on the platform, and people like you saying that Māori and the left are against having a conversation about this, because they absolutely are. It's just about on what grounds and how honest it is, because it's not very honest when you don't agree with the inherent premise that Māori didn't really cede sovereignty. Now, you can say that, not you, sorry, I'm saying in terms of a rhetorical sense, that people can say that Treaty Waitangi shouldn't exist, or the Waitangi Tribunal shouldn't exist, and that things should be the way it was, where the Crown had will bar anything, just full reign, go wild, and no precedent, whatever. You can say that, but no one's really saying that. People are being, because if you had an opinion like that, you'd be laughed out of the room and you wouldn't ever be voted back in. It's dishonest. That's why people are pissed off. Nobody's being honest about the debate.
The thing is it's to actually make sure people are treated equally under.
Right.
It's not. People aren't treated equally right now. People, because of the treaty, people get
give me an example.
customary rights.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So here's the thing. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing. That in a sense is what, like, this treaty sentiments, which was reparations. I'm not an expert on this. This is my very, very shallow knowledge on this. Was reparations for land that was stolen from their possession. Now, that could include also a lump sum of money, but also included land which was not even the full piece of land given back to local iwi. Now, the customary rights thing, I think that our understanding of how land ownership works, you're not going to like me again, how land ownership works in the Western world, or just in the current modern understanding of land ownership, could change in the future. How we govern and how we own things can change in the
He's
next.
such a communist, bro. He's such a
No,
socialist
okay,
communist.
okay.
This doesn't
I'm
sound
not
good.
okay. I'm not
Just
okay.
clarify, because I'm not liking where this is going, but we
I
can
know
have
you.
the
I know you won't.
conversation.
I speak of this as think of me as an agnostic. I am open to any premise. I am not going to shut my mind out of any ideology or any bar fascism, of course. Any any ideology or any thought process, bar fascism.
Okay. Okay.
So,
So
look, it doesn't really get to the point of land customary rights, but they were, in a sense, I just want to simplify things because I don't have a great understanding and I don't have a learning to properly debate this. Obviously not, neither do you. And it's always about the narrative, and I think we should discuss that because I think that's the huge problem in the American election. It was always about the narrative, it was never about the hard, cold facts. And especially last election, it was always about the narrative, never about the facts. But in a sense, Māori people were here before us. Māori were open to be in a partnership with the Crown.
I'm not going to listen to that because
in a Crown,
actually,
but keep their sovereignty. And instead, you had the British Empire. It sounds like a bit of white guilt, but it's not, I swear. The British Crown coming over and illegally buying out land. It's either buying out land or fully just, I don't know what God, this is going to show my common law inability here with New Zealand. The New Zealand equivalent of eminent domain. It was either that or be sold at a very cheap price. And what the settlements was and is, and what the Waitangi Tribunal and the idea of co-governance was supposed to remedy that. Now there is a debate. I'd love to have a conversation with the people on this, and I think there was a debate, or not a debate, sorry, interview with one of the leaders of the Hikoi, and how their standpoint is they want the idea of co-governance to be a bit more superseded, rather have their own taxes and have their own local government.
The thing is,
I'm not entirely opposed to it, but I'm not. But I am kind of. It's something I would love to have a conversation with.
I don't think so.
It's very interesting.
I think that's just stupid because then
that's
the thing is
much more.
Look, the people nowadays weren't around then. This is hundreds of years old, and they're going to continue and continue and continue to debate that people are entitled to different things. I think it's just a waste of time. It's like, look, if I want some land, if I want some houses, if I want some businesses,
Two
if I
white
want
boys
anything,
debating.
If I want anything, if I want anything, I have to do it like everyone else has to do it. And I think that's how it should be. I don't think it's a bad thing. But
sorry, could you repeat that? Sorry, I kind of zoned out there. So you believe that how it is should be how it is for everybody else? Sorry.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
If I can only if I go down
only
do
a
some
Sith
fishing.
deals in absolutes. Sorry.
No, if I go down and do some fishing, the limit of fish that I take from the ocean should be the same as freaking Honehara up in the North Island, or
What if the supply up there and the I don't know, other alternate factors that contribute to the amount of fish or the environment up there is different to the South Island or to where you are? So there's different quotas.
Yeah, that's fine, but
so it's not an absolute.
Just because he's a Maori doesn't mean that he should be able to take some more, and that happens. That's customary.
Right.
Absolutely
but again,
disgusting.
It's interesting. I think it's I think if you don't believe, I guess I have to ask this question. Are there other things you want to discuss after this?
One more thing, but we can continue.
Do you?
For a little bit longer.
Yeah. Do you think that? I don't want to ask this, and I don't really want to ever have a debate about this because I don't think either of us are both educated enough to have a discussion about this. But I guess I will. Do you believe that Māori ceded sovereignty in the Treaty of Waitangi?
Well, the thing is look.
Tino Raratingatanga. I'm shit at pronunciations. I'm sorry.
The thing is look. How long are we going to debate it? This bill and this bringing this conversation up is going to define the principles of the bill, and then hopefully we can move past it. But
if it's at a point of dishonesty, then why would you even have the debate in the first point?
Because it wasn't us. It wasn't us. It was whoever was back there. We can't change that, right? We change it. So we do change it by having just your
own standpoint. Do you believe that Māori ceded sovereignty to the British?
Well, I don't know. I don't think they really knew what they were doing, but
okay.
Honestly, that might sound rude. I don't know.
I know. Absolutely. I'm trying to get this through to you. So Māori. So in that case, if in a contract, an agreement, one party with the other, and one party who is much more powerful signed two different versions of contract, and the more weaker party knows a different has a different understanding of has a different language, with the stronger party has a different knows a different language and signs two different versions, with their own version being a much more with the stronger party's version being much more giving much more leeway to the stronger party, obviously, because they know that have the understanding of that language, while the other language's treaty that they've written is in their language, gives them much more leeway, but isn't going to be given much more precedent because that party is much more stronger.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Is like, I think it sucks, but it's probably whoever wrote those contracts up in the Maori language.
Missionaries.
We're stupid. We're stupid because the thing is
so you don't believe. So you don't believe them.
Stupid. Not stupid, but how, like, the English couldn't read their language. They couldn't read the English's language.
But it was translated and again, I don't know enough about this, but it was translated in that from missionaries.
The problem that I have with the whole situation,
but that's besides the point. If you break a contract,
and that's why we have the settlement process. That's why I have the settlement process. But my problem is
they've just appointed Richard Prebble, who was famously opposed and for abolishing the tribunal. They truly are the friends.
Every Māori person thinks that they're entitled to something. Hey, if this didn't happen, say they were still living the way that they lived hundreds of years ago, most of these people that think they're entitled to something would be slaves on the land to the chiefs.
I mean,
they're not entitled to shit.
Okay.
But they think they are because they're this race, right? The Treaty Principle Bill will okay, it's not going to get past the first reading. We've established that, but it's going to start the conversation and actually, I think it's going to bring us closer together. It's not going to divide as much as people think if they actually have a look at it. Now, we're going to move on here, and I'm actually going to talk about something that will be linked to what we're talking about, and that is, the media bias that's going on in this country right now is just ridiculous.
Okay.
I think, they're not
facts over feelings. I know, right, guys? Come on.
Well, they don't. I don't want to sound like Donald Trump here, but it's like, they don't really, okay, for example, I was watching, they're actually discussing this Treaty Principles Bill on breakfast the other morning, and, the amount of, they aren't reporting the facts from all standpoints. Do you understand what I mean?
Okay.
Jenny May Clarkson was doing it. she just does my head in because she was talking to Mr. Seymour, and she's like, "Oh, this is a divisive bill. There's
It is divisive, though.
no,
Just because you say it, I've seen that interview. Just because he says it's divisive doesn't mean it's not divisive. It's divisive. It's a controversial bill.
Yeah, but the thing is actually what she said after that was, "Oh, there was a crowd outside Parliament, whatever." There was like a handful of people.
Yeah, because they
There
moved
was no
ahead.
big huge riot.
Yes, because they moved it ahead. They're always not going to be when the bill's going to be read.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it was moved ahead. Like, okay, what's your point?
The point is that all they do is always, they're left leaning, which is fine. It's always left. Everything's left leaning, but I think they need to actually be reporting, a bit more fairly. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's fake, but they need to be doing a bit more fairly.
Oh, like CNN.
Not like CNN. CNN's
No.
crap.
Like, instead of being objective, be balanced.
Yeah, be balanced like Fox News.
Oh, come on.
Kidding.
I hope. Yeah. Okay.
Balanced. But like the thing is like, just be a bit more. I just can't that's why I don't really watch breakfast. It just come up and I was like, oh, this is just crap.
I don't either. It's for liberals, but that's why it's a dying medium. Look, yeah. Okay. Carry on. Sorry. Carry on.
I just think I'm not going to say it's fake or nothing. I'm not like I'm not a a wing nut on this kind of thing. I'm just saying it should be a bit more.
Look, okay. I just want to say I think you're kind of rephrasing into your perspective of the media in this country is left leaning, which I think is an interesting point you make, because I think a lot of things that are factual and based around fact, and you're going to completely disagree with this, is inherently left leaning. Just because something is right and it just so happens to be on the left doesn't make it any less wrong than something that might be right but is on the centre. Most of the things are. It's just a fact. A lot of freedom, liberal democracy, and capitalism and all that fun stuff is inherently freedom-based, which is, towards the left. I mean, I have my opposition to
left is a lot less free. A lot less free than right wing.
Oh, right, freedom to fuck people over. I didn't mean it like that. I mean, freedom of expression,
No.
freedom to
freedom to do whatever
converse,
you want,
freedom to fuck people over. Obviously, is a right-leaning thing, right, libertarian, obviously, but the freedom for corporations to merge into monopolies and to fully cost, and freedom to buy out public insurance, and I understand. I understand your point. There we go.
Yeah, and then you got the left, which all they want to do is have big government, spend lots of money, drive up inflation, cost people their jobs all the time, destroy the economy every chance, every turn, every chance that they get, and then they finally get kicked out of government, and then a right-leaning government gets the brains, gets the mandate to fix it. Then now they're fixing it, they'll fix it, and then as soon as Christopher Luxon's had enough, then it's a cycle. I get it, but the thing is right is a lot more free for people to actually get ahead and actually have a better time of things.
Cool. I think the current landscape in media in New Zealand is really, 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 really bad. I mean, look, we're amazing, right? The Daily Divide is a spearhead in like talkback radio is just full of a bunch of old wing nuts that that don't understand the future is the internet. And look, the current landscape in the media landscape in New Zealand is shrinking, and that's not a good thing. Less journalists is not good for democracy. Either way, it's not good for liberal democracy. Either way you cut it. And I think investigative journalism is going to really be impacted here. You don't have to ask me. Ask all the other people that are being impacted by the jobs. I mean, you're now getting One News getting cuts because they have to meet a figure of 30 million. They're making cuts to. They made cuts to Fair Go. They look like they're going to make cuts to Q&A. Looks like they're going to make. They're going to get rid of their website. I don't know if that's true. Stuff's making cuts. NZME, New Zealand Herald has made cuts, and they're going to make more cuts. I think. The Māori Chat Te Kara Day. I think, again, I'm not good at pronunciation. I'm not good at pronunciations. I don't do it on purpose. My mouth doesn't mouth. I can't even pronounce English stuff. But a lot of things are leaving. And what that's going to do is that's going to shrink the landscape into a very specific thing. You've already seen it with 3 News. These layoffs are going to basically concentrate media standpoint even more further. So it doesn't really matter about whether or not it's left or right. It's based on whether or not the government is held to account, and that's a huge problem. And that's a problem that we're going to have to reckon with.
This is what I would suggest to them was get rid of Te Kara, get rid of Second 7 Sharp, get rid of Te Kara, and then just have a Māori language week. On the Māori language week, they can bring Te Kara back as for the week.
Hey, look at our Mary man. Look, he for a week. Look, King.
No, I'm just saying, how many people
we got brown people. Look at them. They sing. They have a funny language. Look at them do their little dance. Come at
I'm just saying. I just mean.
Fun.
I'm just saying because how many people actually watch it and understand it, I don't know. I think it outweighs
different. Okay. There is a debate about, increasing language awareness and, being in an environment with that language to be able to learn. So stuff when you're learning Korean, you want to be listening and watching Korean channels and radio stations and Korean TV shows. It's similar. It's like Te Reo Māori. Okay. But that's besides the point. I think the media landscape, let's get to the main point. The media landscape is shrinking. That's a big problem. And we're going to have to reckon with the fact that investigative journalism is going to go to the shitter. Totally. And that is the main problem.
Anyway, I think that's all I have for today. Have we got enough of anything?
I think I wanted to touch briefly back to, if we've got time, we're hitting 38 minutes. We've got time. I wanted to touch briefly back to the American election and the lessons that I think the Labour Party specifically need to learn from it. And I think the Democratic Party need to learn from it. And what was shown, and I briefly touched on this at the start, what was shown by the election this last week was the fact that the DNC did not appeal to the base, right? And I think the big problem here is that they are too liberal. They are too facts driven. They're too up their own arse, and they don't really see what general people and what they believe in. They don't really listen to them. They don't listen. No, they don't listen. They don't listen to people, and that's a huge problem. I think the big mistake, and I think that's the whole consensus here on the American left. The big issue, the big thing was. The big loss was in 2016 and in 2020 when Bernie Sanders wasn't elected. He, similar to Trump, had a general message for the working class and for working people that really appealed to them. And I don't really give a shit about whether or not you care about policies, because it's not about that. It was never about that. Nobody is, and everyone says this, nobody is looking at Trump and going, oh, yes, the 20% tariffs, and oh, yes, he's going to be, specific policies there. Oh, yes, the deport, the 20 million people, yes, that is interesting. Comparing to Trump, no, it's compared to Kamala Harris, her policy, blah, blah, blah. No one's doing that. People vote on vibes. And I think that's the important lesson. This is the important lesson that the Labour Party need to learn. Stuff like the Dunedin hospital cut, stuff like the fact that the Treaty Principle Bill was moved ahead, they need to create a narrative and create a story that benefits them. It can be based. It can be based. They need to set the narrative, and they need to do it now. The Labour Party need to be absolute in their decisions. They need to be absolute in what they believe in. Stuff like what they did in the previous election, like half and half, like, oh, we'll get rid of the GST on fruit and vegetables, isn't going to cut it. They need to be absolute in what they believe in. They need to be absolute in their capital gains tax now or not. They need to be absolute in what they believe in either getting rid of a GST or not. They need to be absolute in whether or not they're going to get rid of have free dental. They need to be absolute in every single policy right now, and they need to be clear about it. And what they need to be doing is setting the narrative against the Labour Party and against the National Party and Luxon.
Yeah.
And that's the message they need to be doing. And that's the problem. That's the problem. Sorry. Very sorry. I know I'm rambling, but I need to get this off my chest. But that is the problem that the Democratic Party ran into. They didn't set the narrative. They were too. No, it's not about policy. Again, it's not about policy. It's not about policy. It's whether or not you agree with policy or not. It's never about that. No one cares about policy. Well, they do, but they don't in the interim, especially in elections. No one cares about that. No one's watching. No one's listening to. No one's. Yeah, I know. Hello. Anyway, no one's. You threw me off there. No one's watching debates. No one's listening to parliament. No one's studying on parliamentary procedure. They're too busy working. No one gives a shit about that granular stuff. No one gives a damn about a 4% increase or 4% decrease in something, unless you're not a homeowner and it's about interest rates, which is I would guess is the exception. But a lot of people don't own homes. That's the point. That is the problem that the DNC ran into, and I think that's what the Labour Party ran into last election. Obviously, it was an anti-incumbency election, and it was the same with DNC.
Yeah,
but that's what the Labour Party need to be against.
I just want to interject here.
Stuff like being like public option against Medicare for all isn't going to help. Stuff like that isn't going to fucking help. People are just going to go. It's not a clear message.
Okay, here's the thing. Is I think the problem that they ran into was they counted too much on the fact that people weren't going to vote for Trump. That was it.
Yeah, that as well.
That was the main thing. They didn't think that people were going to re-vote Trump, and so they were a bit complacent on that fact.
Oh, that as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
People, they thought you convicted felon, people weren't going to vote for him. Well, people don't really give a shit about that, obviously. Anymore.
Yes.
Back in the day, if a presidential candidate got pulled up receiving it, probably a big thing. Now that's not.
Yeah,
not a huge
like we're in the age of obviously. Obviously back then 2003 there was not 2003 specifically, but in that period, obviously debates were obviously like 10-second clips, and that was still a thing. But now it's now short term. Clips. Like most people aren't literally going to watch a 2-hour long podcast of Joe Rogan with Donald Trump, but they're going to watch small clips. No one watches huge speeches of Donald Trump, because if they did, he is entertaining, but God, he slurs his words a lot. But they watch little clips. They watch little clips, and that's the important thing. And I think that's the whole consensus, is that the important thing for the DNC. For the next cycle is they need to, then they won't do this, but they need to get someone that is likable and that is kind of funny, but also has a strong message and a absolute message that taps into their base, because that's what the Republican Party does.
Totally.